Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. So, Joe Biden spoke to the AFL-CIO today in Philadelphia. Now, I hate to oversimplify, but let me just play you some sound that I think captures the thrust of his speech. Please take a listen.
I don't want to hear any more of these lies about reckless spending. We're changing people's lives.
Well, there you have it. Well, with all due respect, Mr. President, you did engage in reckless spending with your $2 trillion spending mistake in March of last year. That one launched a terrible inflation. Economic graybeards in your own party told you not to do it. They told you it was going to trigger inflation. They were right. You were wrong. Janet Yellen was wrong. Jay Powell was wrong. And you have changed people's lives for the worse. You love to talk about middle-income people. You want to be the most pro-union president in history. But it is precisely those working folks whose lives have deteriorated enormously because of your inflation tax, which, of course, falls most heavily on those people for necessities like food and gasoline. Those prices are soaring. You launched it. I know you never want to talk about it. When you do, you always like to blame everybody but your own policies. But before anybody heard of Vladimir Putin going into Ukraine, your excessive spending and borrowing that was monetized by the Fed's money printing, well, that's now landed us most recently with an 8.6% consumer price index. Gasoline up 49%, food up 10%, electricity up 12%, new cars up 13%. Just saying, sir, those are life-changing numbers. Middle-income working folks will probably have something like a $5,000 increase in their cost of living in the months ahead. They can't afford it. Their inflation-adjusted real wages have dropped 3%. In other words, your reckless spending spree means that folks are working harder and getting paid less. Look in a full-length mirror, sir, and what do you see? Well, you see the very person that has decimated the middle class with this inflation tax. Today's producer price index was just as bad as the CPI, maybe worse. The top line was up 10.8%. Prices for goods up nearly 17%. For food, 13%. For energy, 45%. The worst part is that the 3-month changes are faster than the 12-month changes, which means inflation is, in fact, accelerating. There's no peak inflation here. And your Federal Reserve appointee, Jay Powell, is now left with no choice but to jack up interest rates faster and higher than anybody in government thought necessary. It will lead to recession. It's already crashing stocks. Inflation expectations are rising, according to the latest NFIB Small Business Survey and the New York Fed survey. Now, I know you play the blame game, Mr. President. Besides Vladimir Putin, you're running against something called MAGA. The only MAGA I know is your MAGA economic policy mistakes. Because besides your inflationary spending spree, and by the way, one more point, let's not forget, you wanted a $5 trillion additional social spending bill called Build Back Better. And thanks to Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, you didn't get it. But you wanted it, and you pushed for it. So please quit bragging about deficit reduction. You've never met a pay-for in your entire life. Now, today in Philly, you proudly boasted of your attempts to raise taxes across the board. Well, there are 36 tax hikes in your FY23 budget, 11 on energy alone, $3.5 trillion in total tax hikes. What a terrific idea. We're going into a recession, and you're raising taxes. We need more energy, but you want to tax all the fossil fuel companies practically to death, which brings me to my last point. You have decimated the oil and gas business. Your environmental regulations have strangled fracking, drilling, pipelining, LNG exporting. You canceled the XL pipeline. You canceled drilling in Alaska. You canceled drilling in the Gulf of Mexico. Your EPA has drawn up restrictions that have emasculated not only the fossil fuel business, but also infrastructure of all kinds. Right now, because of this, oil is badly undersupplied, and so is gasoline. These are self-inflicted wounds, sir. You have only yourself to blame. Please, go back to that full-length mirror. But you know what, Mr. President? The cavalry's coming. And that's my riff.